Come here. A little closer. You want to make some money? Okay, so as promised, I have a project that has been making a killing in my area. It's not a super saturated market. I cannot keep up with the orders. If you do this project, when you post it, you better be prepared to do it in bulk. I want to show you how to do it in bulk, but I only have one more to build because I stopped taking orders. And so within 10 hours, we've sold about 15 of these, 13 or 15. I can't remember, my eyes are crossed at this point. It took off like crazy. It's not saturated, like I said, like the planter boxes. I thought about doing that, but that's just super saturated. People are making money, that's fine. I didn't want to compete with those people. I wanted to do my own little thing. This is what I came up with for my own yard, and it wound up taking off to be something that's just making good extra side money. And so I hope this video helps you. If it does, that's awesome. Like, subscribe, comment. The information will be available for free either in the description or there'll be a link to the description on my website. Let's start getting into it. Okay, so real quick, we'll run through the cost. Each feeder only costs about $8 to $12 to build, depending on what type of hardware you buy. And I've been selling these for a pretty low price just to prove the concept, but we've been selling them for $50 a piece. You could probably go as high as $150 a piece, depending on what type of material you buy. But we're using construction grade pine, so I'm not really going to charge that much money for it. And the reason being, because I want to keep my expenses low. If you use cedar or some other type of wood, I'm sure you could charge more money than what I'm charging right now. A couple of things you should know about construction grade lumber when you go to buy it from the big box store. They're not the actual dimensions that they're listed. A 2x6 is actually 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches. The lengths are actually a little longer most of the time than what they specify. 8-foot long board is actually 8 foot with an extra 3/8 to 5/8 inches stacked on top of that. So it'll be 96 3/8 to 96 5/8. And that's because the ends are not square. If you're going to pull a measurement, the first thing you should do is square up one end and then pull your measurement from that squared surface. The first thing you're going to want to do is put on a set of earmuffs. You have to have your hearing protection. Do you have your earmuffs? Okay. Okay, so with that out the way, let's run through the cut list very quick. The reference for the cut list will be in the description or in the link to my website. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it in the video. So the first thing you're going to do is square up one end. You want to get the roundovers off of one edge of the board. You don't want roundovers. We want to make everything as square as possible. So you're going to take off the roundovers by setting your table saw fence to rip off just the 1/8 inch wide, a saw blade thick to get the roundovers off of one side. Then that's going to be your reference to run through the table saw. You're then going to rip down 2.5 inches wide by 1.5 inches wide strips from the entire length of one 2x6. You're going to take that remaining 2x6 and cut off two 16-inch sections and rip both of those 16-inch sections down to 1.5 inches wide by 1.5 inches wide. The remaining cut off from your first board will be ripped down into, let me get my notes. So the remainder of that cutoff should be 5 foot long. You should be able to rip that down into 1 inch by 1 inch strips. And that's going to give you most of your structure. The next 2x6, you want to square one in like we talked about, and that's the end you're going to pull your measurements from. You're going to cut a 16-inch section off of that. You're going to rip that down into 3/8 inch thick strips. And you should come out with about 16 3/8 by 16 inch long strips. You want to use whatever scraps are left to get those strips to count up to 20. You need 20 strips for the roof. Last and final cut will be the trickiest of them all, and that's because we're going to resaw. Now it's tricky for me because I don't have a bandsaw. We're going to resaw the width of a 2x6. So you're going to cut down a 12-inch block. You're going to cut 12 inches off of the cutoff, and then that's the last cut you got to make as far as on that other 2x6. You're going to take that 12-inch cutoff and you're going to resaw that down into 3/8 thick by 5 1/4 wide strips. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to stand that up on this width, and you're going to run that through your table saw. Raise your table saw blade as high as you can, run it through the table saw until you have 3 strips. Then you're going to take your table saw, bring it down to 5 1/4 and rip those down to be 5 1/4 wide by 3/8 inch thick by 12 inches long. And that's going to be all the cutting that you're going to do. No, it's not even close. So that's the first part of the cut process that we're going to do. Now we're going to cut everything down to length. The rest of that 2x6 is extra. Congratulations. All right, so let's get into the actual build and cutting things down to dimension. The first thing you're going to do is take that 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch by 8 foot long strip. Take one of those. You're going to lop 4 foot off of it. Lay out your measurements. You're going to take 4 foot off of that, and then the remaining 4 foot, you're going to cut that down into 4 1-foot sections. That's going to give you your base and your feet that extend out on the bottom. Now on those feet, what I did is I cut an angle just roughly, didn't measure, didn't do anything like that, kind of eyeballed it. I cut a little angle just to give it a little bit better of an aesthetic whenever it's actually all put together. The next thing you're going to do is take that other 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch by 8 foot. You're going to lay that out. You're going to cut 4 8-inch sections and 4 10-inch sections, but they're all going to be cut at opposing 45-degree angles. And what that's going to be is your bracing that's going to come off of the base to the feet and off of a base to the bottom of the tray. Make sure you cut those at 45-degree angles. Before I forget, the base of the feet part of the base, I did drill a hole. I'll roll the footage for that. I drilled a hole kind of off of that angle towards the outside of the legs. That's so that the client can anchor the bird feeder down instead of putting weights on it. They can just shove an anchor into the ground. It's a 1/2 inch hole. There's plenty of stuff they could buy. They can do whatever they want, but that's just an option. I like to give them another option in case they don't want to have weights stacked on top of the base of the feeder. All right, so now we get to the fun part, which is cutting out all of the timber frame pieces. Just so you know, these are 30-degree angles. This middle piece is a 60-degree angle on each side. This is a 60-degree angle. No, this is a 55-degree angle. This is a 25-degree angle. There's a jig that makes this super simple, especially if you're doing it in bulk. Very rough, very down and dirty. I'm going to explain it right now. So if you're going to do this in bulk, a jig is going to make this so much faster than doing it piece by piece. You could do it on a miter saw piece by piece, but this makes it so much more simple, and I made it out of scrap wood. It's set at a 30-degree angle to make the outside triangle. I'm going to run my first piece. I'm going to cut a matching 30-degree angle on the 1 inch by 1 inch strip. I'm going to butt that against this 30 degrees. Run my first piece, take the cutoff, stack it on front for the B section, run it again, stack it on top for the C, run it again. And you're going to see how to do that very shortly. This is going to make the process go by so much faster. And like I said, it is scrap wood, and it'll come out perfect every time. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make these two pieces right here that form the little arrow to give it that timber frame look. It's very, very simple. It's a timber... Hey, get that jig out of my face! It's a very, very simple 55-degree angle nail gun to a board that'll fit on your miters. I'm sorry, I'm shaking it. So these jigs are very, very easy to do. This is just a piece of scrap wood nailed at a 55-degree angle in reference to my miter saw blade, nailed to a piece of plywood that I can clamp. Ow! Dang it! Ah, the nail went through and I just jabbed my finger. But it clamps down to the miter saw, as you will shortly, very shortly see. And I'll make that first 55-degree reference cut, and then I'll trace it on the timber frame piece to get my 25-degree location, and I'll cut that out on the miter saw. I mean the table saw. You're so stupid. You're not sell all your tools and get
What kind of woodworker can't tell the difference between a table saw and a miter saw? Start a pineapple farm and move to Tahiti.
Okay, so I do this cut on the miter saw mainly because I don't feel like switching the miter gauge back and forth to accommodate the different angles. So I cut my 55-degree angle on the miter saw. I'll butt it up against where that angle is supposed to be and trace the outline, which is the other 25-degree angle. And that's what I'll actually run on my table saw. And then that offcut will give me the other angle I need for the opposing side. So I'll lay that out. Whoa, ooh, wow, oh. So I'll lay that out and trace it, and I'll bring it back to the miter saw, cut it, place it, and then screw it down into place. Okay, so we're now getting into the assembly portion of the project, and we're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So you should have 4 of these 12 inches long. These are going to be your feet for the base. We're going to start out with throwing a couple of pocket hole screws into the bottom of the base. We're going to work our way around. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take our 8-inch pieces. You should have them cut at a 45-degree angle, like so. And we're going to go through and add these braces all the way around. Now to do that, the first thing you're going to do is countersink each one. And I'm using 2-inch long exterior screws. That's all there is to it. You work your way around. Bow, bow, bow. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is add the angle braces at the top. Now, multiple ways to do this. The easiest way that I found to do this by myself is to drill a hole in the top of your post. And it doesn't have to be countersunk, but that's just the bit that I have. And take a flat piece of scrap wood and screw it down to the top. What this is going to do is give you a flat reference it's going to give you a flat surface to reference, because it is a pain to try to hold these as it is. So this is going to give you a flat surface to reference that's going to represent how the tray is going to set. Any scrap wood will do as long as it is straight. And that's it for the base. We're going to set this to the side. We're going to build the tray next, and then we're going to build the house. So to build the tray, we have 2 16-inch long by 1.5 by 1.5, 2 12-inch long by 1.5 by 1.5. It's just going to connect with a few Craig screws. And the bottom of the tray is going to connect with a couple of Craig screws as well. The tray bottom is 3/8 thick. You just set your collar for the Craig jig a little bit below the 1/2-inch marker, and it'll work out just fine. And you can use the screws that you would use for a 1/2-inch thick stock. It would seem that I completely overestimated how much wood you need for the tray. Forgot to account for this taking off 3 inches, so I'm going to have to rip down that other tray to fit in the middle. And that's fine. I'm glad I'm kind of working through the plans before I'm posting them, so I'll make sure to make a note of that in the instructions. Alright, I'm going to rip this other strip down. I'll let you know the measurements once I finish. I got to get this wrapped up. Alright, so we're going with a 2-inch strip. So you only need 2 5 1/4 trays and 1 2-inch. And remember, we want a gap to account for water drainage. You don't want it to hold water. And that's it for the tray. The next thing we're going to do is flip the bird feeder over and put it on top. We're going to mount it to the feeder. Now you will have a little bit of overlap on these two. We're going to shave that off with a handsaw. The other two will fit on the inside just a smidgen. But you just even it out till it looks good. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's the great thing about this project. None of this really has to be perfect, because it's something that's going outside. Really what people are buying as far as for the timber frame, unique look of the timber frame feeder, bird feeder. So to attach the roof, all I did was put glue on the 2 uprights. You do need Titebond 3 exterior glue or something equivalent. I use Titebond 3. I put glue on the 2 uprights, and I'll put a bead of glue on each slat where the next slat will make contact with it. And I just nailed it down using 18 gauge nails, 5/8 inch length. Simple as that, very easy to do. The trickiest part is when you get to the peak. That's why we have 20 slats, so you can play around with them top 2 to make them meet and really seal in that top. You don't need to do a ridge vent or anything like that unless you're going to charge substantially more money. Easy build, easy to do. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a beginner project, but it's really anybody could do it, and especially anybody could do it and make money off of it. It's very easy build to do. If you just get into it, this could fund a major tool purchase very easily. So a couple of things. Let's talk about upselling. It's a sales strategy called upselling. How would you upsell something like this? Here's a couple of ideas, and you should think about some as well if you want to get into it. Here's a couple of ideas that we did that will work very well. Number one, use some of that scrap wood. Cut it down to about 3 inches and make a little name tag that'll go here. If you have a laser engraver, if you follow my channel, I highly recommend. If you see my videos, you know I say, hey, get a laser engraver. It's $500, or you can find one for $250. There's cheap laser engravers, and they pay for themselves very quickly. Get you a little laser engraver and make you a name tag that'll go onto the chapel right here. People love that, and you could tack on another $5 or $10. It takes literally 10 seconds to engrave the name on it and nail it to the bird feeder. Another idea, stain it or paint it. That would easily add about $30 to $35 to the cost of this. If this was stained or painted, I would not be selling it for $50. It would be $75, $80, maybe even $90. depending on the type of finish. Sand it or paint it, that's another way to upsell it. Think about what you could do to get more money for it. Change the material from pine to cedar or pine to cypress, something like that. There's many ways you can figure out how to make more money than what I'm making off of this. It was just comfortable for me. I really did it for the sake of a really good video, really good information for you. It worked. I had great success with it. I am talking way too fast. It worked for me. I had great success with it. I hope it works for you. Anything else I need to go through? Oh, just so you know, the holes that we drilled into the feet at the bottom, those are 1/2-inch holes. They are so that the client can anchor that to the ground as opposed to putting weights on top of the feet. They could just shove an anchor into the ground. Okay, it's about time to wrap up this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it helps you. I hope you make a killing off of this. I know I sure did. I hope you make more. If you do, if you make some money, or if you just enjoyed the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm really trying to grow the channel, and that's the best way you can support me right now. I appreciate all the support, and as always, I will catch you on the next one.